cautions first. All four doors open, not just the windows, the doors are as well, and all four of them outside the garage. Battery disconnected. Gas tank 1/4 full, no more than that. This is the only thing I could find that cleans the gasoline and gasoline smell. The only thing, get good quality gloves, no electric drills, no flashlight, so you don't drop your flashlight inside the tank and who knows, maybe it's gonna get you burned. This is the best thing you like for this kind of job. It's really going to save your day. I'm going to use these nitrile gloves, which are very nice, and I know they don't tear easily. Black plastic tank, silver metal tank, usually on 2003-2004 cars. Each of the gas tank types have different configurations here and different pumps, not interchangeable. Metal gas tank has the pump on this access hole. This other hole, there's nothing there. Plastic gas tank, the pump is here, and there's the first fuel sender lever float here, and there's a second sender lever there. There's no pump there, just one here, and in between them there is a long hose, and when you remove them you need to attach a wire to the end of that hose, a long wire, and you will pull the pump with the hose attached to it. The sender here there will stay in place. You remove the pump from here with the long hose, and you need to pull that wire up to this opening. Access hole on the plastic tank, pump and float, second float, hose between. Careful not to spill gasoline, and make sure you tighten back properly so you don't get vapors inside the car, especially in the summer days. Be sure to clear this. Now I'm in a junkyard, I don't care. Really clean everything, like spotless clean. I recommend you go at the engine. You have that fuel rail and you have a shredder valve with a small cap. So undo the cap, put a plastic on the valve and release the pressure. And if the engine is hot, don't do this. Wait for the engine to cool down, because the pressure keeps building up even with the engine off. So release the pressure before you disconnect these things. Now these are not that terrible to disconnect, but not that easy either. Really need to depress this tab to see at the bottom, fully at the bottom with one hand, and then push maybe with the screwdriver against it to release it from the hose. You'll have a little bit of fuel spilling, but again, make sure there's no pressure in the system. Release it. So you can actually undo this ring with, I did use a cold scissor like this, but it's too sharp, so maybe try to find something that is not sharp but flat. The most important caution is try not to crack it. I have a normal hammer. Give it medium hard taps, not too strong, not too weak either. But to give you an idea, I'm going to remove this one, and it's tight. I didn't punch it yet, so again at the base, just like that, and let's go for it. See how long it takes to undo it. I'm moving to other tab. This one is really stuck. Keep the tool at the base of the tab, not at the top of the tab. You are going to break the tab. Doesn't work. Just like that, really at the bottom of it, right there at an angle. When you remove the pump, go gently and be sure to drain back the gasoline inside the tank. You don't want to have this inside your car. To remove the pump, you are going to pull on this cover and it feels like it doesn't come out. That's because you have this kind of two metal, whatever tabs is, and it feels it doesn't want to come out. But what you need to do first, and by the way, remember that this cup is full with gasoline. So the thing to come out, you need to undo the float. You see the float has a U metal rod. The float is inside. It's hooked here at the top. It's really not difficult to undo it. Better not try to undo the potentiometer, just the float with a screwdriver. Force a little bit, it goes into that plastic clip. But the float, it kind of have the metal rod, and the rest of the float inside is not going to come out if you pull on the pump. So you need to detach it first, and careful not to drop it inside the tank. So it's crazy, and it's really tight. When you remove the fuel pump, it's really, the clearance is nothing, effectively nothing. But when you pull it out like this, at some point you'll have the hoses attached at the bottom. On the sender side, so left side of the car, so first you may want to detach this sender unit, which is kind of long, and remember to put it back in the same orientation. It looks like this, so not like that, more like this. You also have a small arrow here which looks like it's pointing towards the rear of the car. So that thing, sender, it's hooked here. Just go gently and just slide it up from there. Again, it looks more or less like this. You just watch out for the wires, and then you have this yellow clip at the bottom. You have this tiny tab. Just press downwards with one hand, and with the other hand just pull and detach this thing. When you put it back in place, make sure it clips. Try not to force it so it doesn't detach while the car is driving. It's just a clip, so just press this thing down. Well, you are going to detach this cable here, and this whole thing goes inside, but you are going to attach kind of a wire or a rope, so make sure you hook it properly. Make a long rope, because you are going to get this out through the other hole, but then you want to put it back in place, so you have to pull by that wire. It's your wire, there's nothing here, so you really need to pull this guy from that hole back here. When you put everything back in place, don't forget this detail, and then you should be able to pull the pump out from there. These connections here are hot, kind of melted on the hoses, so it's impossible to undo them. You just have to remove the pump with the hose. One of the things that people had happen, not often time, but it does happen, when you put this guy back in place, you pull the wire from the other side, from the other hole. And look at this hose here, is actually pretty flexible, and when you put the pump into the hole, some people got this hose kinked, perhaps because they didn't pull on the other side properly while pushing down this pump, and they got this hose kinked like that. Look how easy it is to kink it. And then they have a serious, very difficult to diagnose, to find issue with the engine stalling, missing power, missing fuel pressure, and you try to replace a lot of sensor. It's only because of this thing here. Really careful. Let's see if I can fish it back. So basically I did not remove this guy from there. I simply detached it from the pump and let it hang in here, because this hole is crazy tiny for the pump to come out. And you have this guy here, which I told you. Let me see if I can see the ring. There's it. So when I tried to remove this ring from there, I was really crazy because I couldn't remove it from underneath that connector. This is really, I have to force a little bit, because this one just maybe try to push it back there, but it's annoying. So you have 4 bolts. You will see this seal here. Careful, because it has openings for the wires to pass the cables. Again, this is the metal tank. And then you have this ring. if you remove this thing in winter time when the seal is stiff, it's going to be much easier. I did use a punch like this called chisel, and I did punch here. So don't punch like that because it's gonna break it. Punch here, and you really need to punch in summertime a lot. A 5 minutes punch in winter time is going to be a 30-second 1 minute. Let me just put this on the side. Once this thing, you really need to clean this very nicely around this this edge. Make sure you clean nice. When you remove the pump, go gently and be sure to drain back the gasoline inside the tank. You don't want to have this inside your car. Also, the connectors on this model just slide in there. So while the pump is out, it's perhaps a good idea to put back that cover so you don't smell too much gasoline. This is how the pump sits inside the tank. There's two securing brackets. There's one towards the front of the car, and this one is very difficult to see. There's no securing screw. This one you may drop it inside the tank carefully, it may even rattle. Also aligns with this hole here is the hole right by the pump. Notice the position. Also kind of hooks the pump at the top, and at the bottom you have, of course, this sleeve, the bolt. Let me just show you this guy, how it goes inside the tank. It sits right on that geometrical thing is. It sits just like that. And you have to detach first the float assembly in order to remove the pump from the tank. This is how the pump sits inside the tank. You are going to see it from this angle. This is towards the front of the car. There is a bracket there. You won't see this one. And this is towards the rear of the car. There's another bracket with the bolt. So go ahead and remove the bolt. Carefully, it has a sleeve and also has a loop ground at the top. Remember to put it back in place. Then follow the next order to remove the parts. Go ahead and right here you have a second ground, this yellow wire, so pull it from there. Remember this one, so there's two grounds, right? Remember to put them back in place. And you are going to remove the float from there. It has two clips. This is one of them. There's another one here, so with your two fingers push on it and pull it from there. Notice it sits inside the cup and it slides on the sides, so make sure you put it back in place. You see how the kind of sliding in there. Make sure you clip it back in place. It comes out, it has a connector. The connector has this, you need to lift a little bit here because it has like a bump. Use a tiny screwdriver to lift that part. It's not too hard to disconnect. And sometimes it's stuck in there annoyingly. And what you want to try, if it's stuck in there, just lift this rod. It's clipped in this top piece, clipped right at the top of that plastic piece. You can remove only the rod itself if the thing is stuck in there, and pull the whole float from inside the tank. At this point you want to detach the rear bracket. It's sliding underneath like that towards the front of the car, and the pump sits into something plasticky. So at this point you can just rotate a little bit the pump like this, move it towards the rear of the car. You are going to bring it closer to the hole, so you are going to see the whole pump at this place, and you can see the hose here. The hose has a single green clip to it. You need to depress it and to pull it. However, be really careful, it will stay like that. When you put it back in place, it has to pass this ring, and I can tell you that to clip it back in place, you really need to, with both hands, you really need to force on it until, I cannot do it one hand, you need to hear it clipping in there. That's it. Right now it's really secured in there. Don't forget this part, otherwise you may have a surprise. It's not too hard to pull, but you really need to be careful to push it back in place correctly and to clip it secured correctly. And at this point you can remove the rear bracket, because you will have, this is like the socket of the pump right here. I did put it in the picture. This is the rear connector, rear bracket, front bracket, rear one with the bolt. This is like a socket, so you pull the pump out of the socket and see how this bracket, this is the one towards the front of the car, sometimes it's dropping inside the tank. It has like a hole and you need to align the two holes here. There's no bolt, but you have to align the two holes and to slide it down. That's how it's securing the pump. The same goes for the other bracket. It has a hole, you need to align it. Let's go first to the connector, main connector right here, and then I'll explain you how to put the pump back in place. So the front connector, it's extremely difficult to undo. I'm not hiding the things, saying it's easy, it's 2 seconds, it's really difficult. The way you want to attack this guy, I can tell you it has this tab and there is a securing clip right here. So you can definitely try to press this tab like this, press it from underneath, but even if you depress it fully, most of the times it's not going to come out. You can pull on the wires are really strong, it's okay. So what I would recommend you, just grab a flat screwdriver, insert it from the top and simply break this plastic piece, just crack it, destroy it, just like that. Don't be afraid, it's never gonna pop from there, it's just the Volvo engineers who are paranoid. Once you break this part here, you can actually insert another, let me just try to find one, insert a tiny screwdriver underneath and pray on this, on the side of the cup, and pray upwards, and with some luck you may keep depressing the thing. It's crazy, I can tell you, with some luck it's going to come out. This is the bomb that won't let you come out even if you depress it. When you put the new pump in place, insert it inside the tank alone, and the first thing you want to do is attach the hose, because you can bring the pump underneath the opening and also you can see the hose much easier, so it's easy to manipulate. This is the very first thing you want to attach before putting anything else around the pump. You may opt to not install the snug bracket because it's difficult to install it. It can sit only with the rear bracket with the bolt on it. Don't over tighten, by the way, the bolt, just make it snug, but don't go crazy on it. So you can sit with this bracket. Maybe if you have a crash, the pump will jump from there and you will starve in fuel, but if you really want to put it back exactly the way it was, then grab the front bracket, put it inside the tank as well, try to match the holes sliding down correctly, and that's how you grab the pump here and you move it towards the front of the car and engage it. It has like into the bottom bracket, it has like a hole, and engage it there and then drop it into its socket. And then you do the reverse, you can put the other bracket, don't forget the bolt, the 2 grounds, right? There's 2 grounds. And by the way, you need to put first the float separately, you bring it inside the tank separately, and only then you attach the ground on top of the float. Make sure you clip it nicely. And make a test for the float so it doesn't hit the wall of the tank. Before you put the secure ring, remember to rotate this plastic white cup in order to be able to place your connectors onto it. So rotate it to put that thing at the top. This cover kind of has a, remember, a bottom part, but also kind of part of it that goes on top of the wires, but notice how it goes. So it has a kind of hole on one side and that goes so you don't crush the wires. On the Volvo XC90 plastic tank, right behind the middle row, you have access hole similar to the other plastic tank cars. That would be the second sender, first sender, and the fuel pump here. Now I did cut because I'm in the junkyard, but perhaps it's easier to just cut into the a hole. It's up to you. Otherwise you really need to remove everything, the rear seats, everything, to remove the floor mats and then the underneath dampening material. But you may want also to cut a hole, and really up to you. And then this air dog that's passing by, and it can be detached on one side here. You get access. It's very tight, it's very difficult to punch the ring open. Better to have that tool. To remove the bottom of the rear seats, it's a whole bench, and normally there's two clips, one on each side. Try to move your hand and try to pull on the corner here, so right where the bench makes a corner, and try to maybe force on that bracket like this instead of forcing like that. To remove the side bolster, maybe first try to slide out the belt. There is a crack there. And then as you look inside, you have clipped the back here. Just underneath you have a black piece, and it has a clip on it right there. Let's see it properly. Press on it, slide a little bit out. When you put it back in place, make sure you engage it properly so it clips back in place, just like that. So move it a little bit forward, not too much, towards the belt, and then slide the whole thing upwards, just like that. At the bottom you have a sliding pin that engages into this bracket here. You don't have to unlock anything. You also have kind of a side clip here that gets not inside but outside here, gets kind of hooked. You don't have to think about it. Maybe toss the thing towards the center of the car a little bit to unhook that thing. Also, maybe careful at the bottom with these wires. I'm not sure if it's a SRS or not, but just careful not to stretch them. These are the connector for the headrests. You have, for this whole thing, there is one single bolt. It's right here underneath that side bolster. It goes there. And you also have the connector for flipping the headrest. So careful how to undo this guy and toss it so you don't crush the wires. Have 40mm here, and that's all you have to do. Just remove that thing, the 40mm, and then on the other side, do I have my flashlight? No, I don't. Maybe you don't see it very easily. There is just a sliding pin that goes in there. You do not have to remove this bracket yet. It stays there, no problem. Just slide the whole section, grab it, move it forward to make place for this kind of things to move. And there's just sliding out like this. You just slide the pin out. Once that seat section is out, to get full access to the door, you need to remove this anchor. It's for the child seat. I believe it's a 14 or 15mm and 18 one, so perhaps you need a breaker bar, a half inch drive, because it's actually pretty tight. You don't need to tighten back like crazy, but 3/8 ratchet won't do it. The float is secured with this part. It's secured right here at the top. You see that plastic piece, like a clump right here. So when you undo it, just go gently. And I believe the problems with this, either this thing is dirty, so try to clean it nicely with some maybe I would say alcohol. It doesn't matter if it looks bad like this, it's just somewhere, but it's still working. It's not a problem. And also what I did a few years ago, I noticed this guy, when it rotates, it kind of moves sideways and it gets stuck in there. So what I realized is, like, it's a little bit too wide here. Basically what I did a few years ago, I pulled this out, and you notice it's not exactly like a U, it's slightly bent. This segment here, I kind of push it a little bit inwards, not outwards, and that, I cannot really tell you by which amount, but that kind of got it more tight in there. When it's rotating, it's no longer wobbling. And from that moment on, from a few years ago on, I always got my exact amount of gasoline on the gauge on the instrument panel. It never fools me again since then. So the float sits on the potentiometer. So basically you can either undo it here inside the fuel tank. make sure you push it all the way in place. The idea was to have this float moving but without feeling any grabbing. Even when you incline it like this, maybe you can keep it on the side and see if it really moves freely. And exactly like I said, I did kind of crush this part more inward because mine was having kind of a movement, lateral movement. Right now it's still a little bit in there, but less than before. And even if you force on it, it doesn't grab it all the way. Perhaps that's what you want to do, or at least try to do.